Sit back, relax, put your belt on, and enjoy the show.
This is the perfect segue to the main course. This week, we preview Super Rugby Trans-Tasman Round 1 in history. We have the first game on Friday night, the Highlanders versus the Reds. For new injuries, we've got Geordie Pataya has a quad injury, and they're saying that he could be out for 4 to 6 weeks. That's the entire competition. He's not from New Zealand, so the competition only goes for 5 weeks. So I'm saying we're unlikely to see him. And then you also have Suliasi Vunivalu coming back on the bench. Cargie will be picking him up, no doubt.
I've already got him. I picked him up for this week, my friend. I'm ready to go. It's Vunivalu's time.
And Perry Parkinson, the Perry Chicken, he is back and he's starting. How good is that to see?
Oh, it's great to see him back. I think he's a pretty pivotal player for them, something that they're definitely going to need.
I see here you've got whoever's done the notes here said no Parisi and Pataya when they obviously named Paisami. Yeah. So well done, fellas. No Reds Hitman. And I think we saw really the same thing in the back half of the Reds game against the Brumbies. You've got Hamish Stewart, you've got Fluke, you got Dungunu now starting, which I think is a real positive, to be honest. But that centre pairing, I think they struggled to get any headway against an organised Brumbies defence. What do you think of the two of them with, again, Hegarty at the back, Jock Campbell on the wing? Is there enough punch in this Red side this week?
Look, I think against the Kiwis, the Reds were talking about they really wanted to go all-out attack. I think it was Mick Wright I heard talking about it midweek. They know
that they're on the field then.
I agree. I mean, honestly, I think it seems like a crazy
decision. It's a sleight of hand. They're going to bring him on 5 minutes into the game.
It's a bit of a crazy decision, you know. I think they obviously had a bit of a punch in the back line last week, and maybe they're trying to hope for something similar this week, thinking they can close the game out late. But look, I mean, you've got two small centres in comparison to two quite, you know, impressive, dynamic, aggressive centres that you normally see for the Reds throughout most of Super Rugby AU. Then we've got...
You can call them what they are, mate, weapons. They're missing the weapons. Okay?
Weapons. But one weapon, he goes off incorrectly. You know, he's as likely to shoot you in the face as he is to shoot the other team. That's Pataya. But
you still want to put that out on the field, mate. That's it.
You still want it on the field.
Maximum damage.
We've got two kind of makeshift outside backs. I think Hegarty is more of a 10 playing 15. He fills that role relatively well. And Jock Campbell is not a winger. Jock Campbell is a fullback who's been shifted to wing. He's not a dynamic finisher. I do think he's quite a class player, but it means we're left with Dungunu on the wing from a team that had Paisami, Pataya, Dungunu, Vunivalu, and all of a sudden we've only got one of these punch weapons on the wing, and surely it's going to dictate how they play. All of a sudden they've got, you know, 4 people that can kick. They don't have all the punch out wide. Surely it's going to change how they're playing.
I feel like you're making this come off as if, and I know not intentionally, but the way you've just said that as if Daugunu isn't an absolute weapon still. I think the word you were missing was they're left with only Daugunu, who is an absolute weapon. But no, I agree. It is, look, Hegarty and Campbell, you know, I think they're both kind of fullbacks and they're not all-out attack players. But in terms of the centres, look, Fluke and Stewart, I think this week will actually be good for them because they're not coming up against any particularly intimidating New Zealand centre combo. They're up against Gregory and Collins, who, look, you know, I don't particularly think much of. So I think if there's any week for them to have a good crack, it's probably this week. But definitely against the Brumbies, I thought they were caught lacking there. They just couldn't get that gain line ball, which enabled them. The threat wasn't big enough to enable them to get the ball out wide. So I expect Daugunu to be hungry and go looking for work, kind of like Korobita. You'll see him pop up everywhere, I think.
The interesting thing, I think, out of this one was last weekend, I don't think we saw the control of James O'Connor that we have throughout Super Rugby AU. I mean, he got the job done back in the back end of the game, but he just didn't seem to have the control of the match. And this game is going to be dictated in based on how well he can control this game. That's simply it for me. He needs to put people in the right positions. He needs to put them in the right side, the right positions on the field. And if he can do that, Dungunu's going to be able to finish off those opportunities. But I just think this is the weakest Reds lineup that we've potentially seen all year, maybe on par with last year. It's a sub in terms of, one of the outside backs. But, I mean, the forwards are weaker, Mick Wright's dropped to the bench. We've got Wright coming in. That maybe we can say that's class for class. That's okay. Luka and Salakai Lotto's dropping to the bench. Tupou's dropping to the bench. That's big. We've got Angus Blythe, who he's hungry. We've got Fotuaika shifting to tight head. He's been playing loose head all season. Dane Zander coming back onto that loose head position. There are significant changes for the Reds. The one positive thing for them is this is potentially the weakest Highlanders lineup that we have seen. We've got no Josh Ioane. Last week we saw Milner Scudder. He's not there. We've got Ethan de Groot, after talking all that nonsense he did all week, he's dropped to the bench, which means, thankfully, he gets to have a chance to prove himself against Taniela Tupou, something he's been doing all week. Shannon Frizzell has been dropped from the side after an alleged assault, but he's not been charged. Hugh Renton is not the same as Shannon Frizzell. This team for the Highlanders is also highly weakened.
I agree. Both teams are weakened.
The biggest takeaway was I said the guy that was going to be the biggest drop in the Highlanders this year at the start of the season was Shannon Frizzell. I've nailed it. I told you it was coming. Your
premonition was correct. Just, in the second season is what you meant. Not the first season, the second combined season. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Look, I agree, Nels. Both weakened teams. It'd be interesting to see how this goes. I really wanted to see the Scudder step. But I think the biggest point that we have missed up until now has been that we haven't mentioned that it's under the roof, boys. Dalguna under the roof. Let's see some fantasy points. Woo! Let's go, Dunedin.
I like it. I like it. Look, this back line, I think we need to just touch on the other changes. So Sam Gilbert, he was in the wing in their last matchup. He's shifted to fullback. Tompkinson's shifted from outside back to wing, which we've seen him in previous years, meaning Collins comes into that 13 jersey. There is a lot of changes for these guys. That, if anything, this Reds team looks unstable, but it is far more stable than this Highlanders team.
I don't agree. I think they're both unstable. It's not far more stable.
I think you guys are making the Reds off as much worse than they are. I think they're just, they're resting a few players. They've got a few players on the bench, but I think they're just backing the boys. I think, let's go to the tips, and that will say everything. I'm tipping the Reds to win this one. Can you believe it? So
how much?
It's Vunivalu 3 tries under the roof. That's what I'm calling. But look, Reds to win by 7 points.
Look, I was a little bit nervous seeing the Reds and a few different things and knowing what this lineup was going to be like. But seeing that Highlanders, I have to back the Reds in this one.
Yeah.
If I don't back the Reds, I don't know who I'm going to back for the Aussies. So I'm going to tip the Reds. I've said 1-12 in all my Aussie matches. So Reds, they're going to win by 5 points. They're going to win by a try.
Yep.
Highlanders are going to be up by halftime by 5 to 7 points. I reckon 50th minute they'll be up by 10. And it's just whether or not the Reds can rein them in when their first team comes off the bench.
Mate, the Reds only like winning in the 80th minute. They've proven that every game against the Brumbies.
It's under the roof, mate. They scored tries galore over there. I'm low. I could never bet against the best Aussie team versus arguably the worst Kiwi team. So I'm going to get the Reds by 2 points. But, geez, I could see it going either way.
Yeah, for mine, it's because I'm probably going to tip the Kiwi teams in every other game this week. Spoilers, but